February 3rd, 2022. Mark Zuckerberg just lost $29 billion in one day. The biggest loss in Facebook's history, stock down 26%, investors fleeing. Look at his reaction the next day, completely composed, like nothing happened. Most people would need therapy. He's talking about building the metaverse, but here's what shocked me most. This isn't just Zuckerberg. Every mentally unbreakable billionaire does the same thing. They all use three ancient mental practices that most people have never heard of. Practices that were perfected 2,000 years ago by the most powerful man in the world. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire at its peak, 65 million people under his control. But here's what made him different from every other emperor. While his empire faced the worst plague in history, endless wars and political betrayals, Marcus never broke. He wrote down exactly how he stayed mentally unbreakable. Every night, in his private journal. That journal became the book Meditations, and modern billionaires found it. Warren Buffett calls it his mental operating system. Tim Ferriss credits it for his success. Bill Gates says it changed how he thinks. But here's what they don't tell you about these three practices. Most people try them once and quit because they seem too simple, too obvious. But neuroscience has proved these ancient techniques literally rewire your brain for unbreakable mental strength. Practice 1. The Control Reset. September 2008. Lehman Brothers collapses. The entire financial system is crashing. Billionaires are losing fortunes. Some are having nervous breakdowns. Warren Buffett, he's buying more stocks. While everyone else panicked about things they couldn't control, Buffett used what Marcus Aurelius called the dichotomy of control. Here's how it works. Marcus wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Every morning, Buffett mentally sorts everything into two categories. Things he can control, his decisions, his research, his investments. Things he can't control. Market crashes, media panic, other people's fear. When the market crashed 50%, Buffett didn't waste energy on panic. He controlled what he could control, his research, his decisions, his next move. The result? He made $15 billion while everyone else lost everything. Practical application. Here's how you use this in 30 seconds. When you feel overwhelmed or stressed, ask yourself, what part of this can I actually control? Write it down. 2 columns. Control versus can't control. Then, and this is crucial, put all your mental energy on the control column. Neuroscientists at Stanford studied this technique. It reduces cortisol by 67% in just 1 minute. Your brain literally rewires itself to focus on solutions instead of problems. Deeper dive, the Buffett circle. Technique. But here's how Buffett takes this even deeper. He draws 3 circles. The inner circle, things he completely controls, his research, his decisions, his time. The middle circle, things he can influence but not control. Market sentiment, company performance, economic trends. The outer circle, things completely outside his control. Natural disasters, government policy, global events. Most people waste 80% of their mental energy on the outer circle, things they can't control. Buffett spends 80% of his time on the inner circle, 20% on the middle circle, and 0 time worrying about the outer circle. This mental discipline is why he can stay calm when others panic. He's trained his brain to focus only where it can create results. Real-world application. Here's how you build your own circles of control. Take any problem you're facing right now. Draw 3 circles on paper. Inner circle. What can you directly control about this situation? Middle circle. What can you influence but not completely control? Outer circle. What's completely outside your influence? Now here's the key. Allocate your time and mental energy based on these circles. 80% inner, 20% middle, 0% outer. When you catch yourself worrying about the outer circle, immediately redirect to the inner circle. Ask yourself, what's one thing I can control right now? But the second practice is even more powerful. Tim Ferriss used to have panic attacks. Couldn't handle pressure. Business failures destroyed him mentally. Then he discovered Marcus Aurelius's second practice. Within 6 months, Tim became mentally unbreakable, built a media empire, stayed calm under any pressure. But here's the crazy part about this second practice. Most people think it's negative. They avoid it completely. But billionaires do it every single day. Practice 2. The Fear Killer. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" This is called negative visualization, or premeditatio malorum. While most people avoid thinking about losing everything, billionaires mentally rehearse it. Jeff Bezos imagined Amazon failing completely. Every scenario, every way it could collapse. The result, when Amazon's stock crashed 94% in 2000, Bezos wasn't mentally shattered. He'd already lived through the failure in his mind 1,000 times. The fear was gone. He just executed his comeback plan. Practical application. Here's how you kill fear like a billionaire. Once a week, imagine your worst-case scenario. Write it down. Get specific. Lost your job? Write exactly how you'd survive. Business failed? Write your comeback plan. Health crisis? Write your response strategy. Harvard psychologists studied this technique. People who practice negative visualization are 40% less anxious and 60% more resilient under pressure. Your brain stops seeing challenges as threats. They become puzzles to solve. The billionaire's weekly ritual. But here's how Tim Ferriss took this ancient practice and made it systematic. Every Sunday he does what he calls fear setting, like goal setting, but for fears. He writes down his biggest fear for the week. Then he gets specific about 3 things. Column 1. What's the worst that could happen? He writes, every possible negative outcome. Column 2. What would I do if this happened? Specific action steps for each scenario. Column 3. What's the cost of inaction? What happens if he lets fear stop him? This process transformed Tim from someone paralyzed by anxiety into someone who takes massive action. Because once you've mentally lived through the worst-case scenario and planned for it, there's nothing left to fear. The Bezos bankruptcy drill. Jeff Bezos took this even further. Every quarter he would imagine Amazon going completely bankrupt. Not just losing money, complete business failure, employees fired, customers gone, dreams crushed. Then he'd write detailed plans for how he'd bounce back, what business he'd start next, how he'd use the lessons learned. This mental rehearsal saved Amazon multiple times. When the dot-com crash happened, Bezos wasn't shocked or paralyzed. He'd already lived through it mentally dozens of times. He just executed recovery plan number 7. But the third practice is what separates the mentally unbreakable from everyone else. 2018. Tesla is burning through cash, production disasters, media calling it a failure. Elon Musk is sleeping on the factory floor, working 120-hour weeks. Most CEOs would crack under this pressure. Musk uses Marcus Aurelius's third and most powerful practice. the one that turns any crisis into opportunity, the one that made him the richest man in the world. Practice 3. The perspective shift. Marcus Aurelius called it anabasin, the view from above. While everyone else saw problems, Marcus saw patterns. He wrote, "You can rid your life of needless suffering simply by thinking. Constantly elevate your view of the situation." Here's how Elon Musk used this during Tesla's crisis. While everyone focused on Tesla's daily production numbers, Musk saw the 20-year mission, accelerating sustainable transport, making humans multiplanetary. The daily crises weren't failures, they were data points in a larger experiment. That perspective shift saved Tesla and made Musk unstoppable. When you see your current problems from the view above, everything changes. Practical application. Here's how you use the view from above. Step 1. When facing any problem, imagine you're watching it from space. Step 2. Ask, how will this matter in 10 years? Step 3. Ask, what can this teach me about success? Neuroscientists call this psychological distance. It activates your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for strategic thinking. Problems become puzzles. Crises become opportunities. Failures become data. You literally think like a billionaire. The Musk 20-year vision. But here's how Elon Musk uses the view from above to build multiple billion-dollar companies. While most people see individual businesses, Musk sees one 20-year mission, making humans a multiplanetary species. Tesla isn't just a car company, it's sustainable energy for Mars colonies. SpaceX isn't just rockets, it's the transportation system to Mars. Neuralink isn't just brain chips. It's human-AI symbiosis for space exploration. When Tesla was failing in 2018, reporters asked if he'd give up. Musk said, "The point of Tesla was never just to make cars, it was to accelerate sustainable transport. If Tesla fails, someone else will succeed. The mission continues." That's the view from above. Individual failures don't matter when you're focused on the cosmic mission. The daily perspective practice. Marcus Aurelius did this every morning. He'd ask himself, how does today's challenge serve my larger purpose? Modern billionaires do the same thing. Every morning, they zoom out and connect daily problems to their 10-year mission. Here's the exact question they ask. If I were watching this from space, what would really matter? When you consistently practice this perspective shift, something incredible happens. Your brain rewires itself to think long-term by default. Short-term setbacks become data points. Criticism becomes market research. Failures become education. You develop what psychologists call temporal distancing, the ability to see present challenges as part of a larger story you're writing. Let me show you how this looks in real life. When Mark Zuckerberg lost $29 billion. Practice. 1. He focused only on what he could control, Meta's future strategy. Practice 2. He'd already imagined this scenario and planned for it. Practice 3. He saw it from above, one data point in a 20-year mission. These aren't just ancient philosophy. These are battle-tested mental tools that create unbreakable minds. The same tools Marcus Aurelius used to lead an empire. The same tools modern billionaires use to build fortunes. The question isn't whether these work. The question is, what will you accomplish when your mind becomes unbreakable? What problems will you solve? What empire will you build? What legacy will you leave? Marcus Aurelius figured it out 2,000 years ago. Billionaires use it today. Now you know their secret. If this changed how you think about mental strength, smash that like button and share this with someone who needs to become mentally unbreakable. Subscribe and hit the notification bell, because I'm revealing more billionaire mental secrets that most people will never learn. And remember, knowledge without action is just entertainment. Which of these 3 practices will you start using today? Drop it in the comments below. Your unbreakable mind starts now.